Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It is 11:41 p.m. and I am on my way to get to Kroger before Kroger closes because I want to buy one of those June's Miracle Cloths to clean my windshield because we are going to Lexington tomorrow, Kentucky, and I want to make sure that my windshield is clean for that. So I'm trying to get there before they close. They close at midnight. Now, I know I say this every night, and it doesn't end up happening, but I always say, tonight is not going to be a long vlog. But tonight is not going to be a long vlog. I have got to finish up my audiobook. So I'm going to finish it tonight, because I want to start another book. I've got so many exciting book things going on. Starting in June, I have the John Wayne Gacy book, Killer Clown, for the book club. And then Helter Skelter about Charles Manson is the whole summer. I'm starting that in June. And then today I announced on my BookTube that I'm doing the James Patterson read-along. And the two books that we're reading are The Quickie and Murder House. So I've got those four things, and so there's some other books that I want to read. Sean David Hutchinson, who is one of my all-time favorite authors, just came out with a book called Brave Face, and I believe it's like his memoir about being bullied in high school. And so I really want to listen to that next. I have so many audiobooks that I have not listened to that I just want to pump through audiobooks this summer, and I want to listen to them. So yeah. So tomorrow, we are, like I said, we're going to Lexington. We're leaving around noon. It's like a 3 or 4 hour drive, I think. And the viewing starts at 3, and it goes till 7. And we're going to pick up Jason's ex-girlfriend, and she's going to drive with us down there. And then we're going to come back after that. So I have a video for my main channel already filmed, and then which it kind of worked out well anyway because it's a sponsored video. So they just have to approve it. So if they don't approve it, then I won't be putting it up tomorrow. But if they approve it, then I'll post the video tomorrow, and then I'll have that video for my main channel, and then I have a Peterisms video posted, and those will be the end of vlog. So it'll be 3 videos that I post tomorrow. And then today I posted a video on every one of my channels. I couldn't believe it. And when I went to the Container Store, because on my review channel I did the poopery little sprays, because I really, you guys, I bought that at the Container Store the other day. I so believe in that poopery spray. So go check out my review, because I did kind of a funny review of it. But you guys, that stuff, like, for real works. Like, it really does. And I know that it's expensive. It's like $9.99 for a big container and $4.99 for a small. But I think it's totally worth it, you know? Like, I really do. Anyway, so I did that review. But when I was at the Container Store, they have, like, so many cool things in there up by the register that I ended up buying, I think, like, three or four other things to review on my channel that are really, like, things that people would use. Like, I would use. That's why I bought them. And I don't want to talk about them on here because I want to, like, show them on the... But they would be really short reviews, which is fine. I'm going to try to aim at, like, some of those videos being super short over there, even just a couple minutes long. But I found these things that, like, I've either had friends of mine that used, or I've seen people that have used them, and they had them there, and I was like, okay, this is, like, so genius that they have this. So I was real excited about that. Yeah, it was a really good day. I got up, did my prayers and meditations, my affirmations. I felt so good today. And then I went and got my coffee, and then I just filmed videos today. Did I do anything else? Oh, I went to the post office, and I believe it was Amanda from Phoenix sent me a new fan, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and I love it. And I used it in my videos today on my Peter Monn channel. And then I filmed videos. I talked to Mel for a while. We were talking about the book that we read, Lost Girls. it was our book club choice this month. They're actually making it into a Netflix movie, and they're filming it right now as we speak. So, it wasn't like the greatest book in the entire world, so that's interesting that they chose to make that into a Netflix movie. But I think it'll be interesting. The whole story is kind of sad. It's the Long Island serial killer, and they still haven't caught the Long Island serial killer. But when you read the book, they kind of speculate like who it is. I don't know. Having read it, I feel like I wouldn't say like I have I know, but I would say like I definitely have kind of an idea, which is weird. Like they definitely suggest somebody that it could be in the book, but anyway, yeah. I wonder how this Dunkin' Donuts is doing. They had their grand opening and everything. Go in here and get this. Oh, I think I made it just in time before they closed. Oh! Twice in 1 minute. What is the deal? Oh, because I don't have my fanny pack behind it. Well, when I come back, I'll put my fanny pack behind it. Oh my God, 3 times! You guys, I'm so sorry. I had to tighten the screws again today on my camera. I think my camera, as durable as it is, has had some wear and tear probably at this point, you know? But that's to be expected. I have 12 minutes, so I hope they haven't closed yet. Okay, I will be right back in 2 and 2. Okay. It was the last one in the grocery store. He had to come out and open the door for me. It was really nice. Put this behind here so it doesn't fall. Okay. Well, I'm not very happy. First of all, I'm just gonna start playing my audiobook. I got my Coke Zero for the evening. But I went in there and I could not find it. They've redone the whole store. They've rearranged everything. And I was like, so I went up to him, I go, what happened to the section? The guy was really nice, but I said, what happened to the section of like as seen on TV stuff? Because that's where it was at. And he was like, oh, he goes, I don't think they put it back when they rearranged the store. And I was like, seriously? And he was like, yeah, I'm really sorry. And I was like, oh, it's okay. And so I was like, well, they had to have put that stuff somewhere, you know? Like, even if they didn't put, like, the section back, they had to put the item somewhere. They didn't. I couldn't find it anywhere. So I'm going to have to buy some of those June's Magic deals. But I bought this Scotch-Brite Scotch-Brite microfiber 3-in-1 cloth, kitchen cleaning, dusting, and glass. Lifts and traps dust without chemicals, streak-free, absorbs. It says machine wash. You can use it over. I'm gonna try it here in a second. And then I also got. I'm gonna tell you that what do you call it? The Old Spice. Don't buy it. It's a waste of money. It didn't work. So I bought Febreze, which one is this? It's one that I've had before that I like. Where is the air? It's like it's called Midnight Rain. Oh, Midnight Storm. Put that in here so the car smells good for tomorrow. And then the other one, I'm gonna put it in my glove compartment. I know this is not going to work the way that June's did. That June's was fantastic. Yeah, it's not working at all. Not at all. It says it cleans glass. It's not even coming off. It's not cleaning it at all. I'm going to have to get, I wonder if I put water on there, that'll work. Put the coldness of the bottle on there. Oh, that does work a little bit. Okay. So I bet if I wet this a little bit, it'll work. So I'll do that tomorrow before I leave. Oh, good. Okay, well. So at least I found something that does microfiber things like June's and whatever this brand is. What is this brand? Scotch Brite. They work better than Windex and paper towels because that is just misery. And you know, like, have you ever done that on your windshield before? Like, you do Windex and paper towels, and then, like, it streaks forever and you can never get it off. You know what I'm talking about? If you've done it, you know what I'm talking about, because it's a mess in your car. Hello. Okay. Alex is really nervous about tomorrow. And apparently it says, like, on the obituary, he was reading it, I didn't see it, but it says, like, 3 to 7 viewing, and then at 7, like, speakers, or something about speaking. And Alex was like, because he doesn't have what he, like, hasn't put together what he wants to say yet, because he thought it was on Friday, and he was like, kind of panicking. He was like, oh my God, am I supposed to do this tomorrow? And so he was, like, talking to the people that were helping with tomorrow, and they said, no, it's Friday. And he goes, okay, he felt better about that. So he's still putting that together. He's kind of picking some songs he wants to reference. And he was working on that tonight and editing some pictures and stuff that he wants to put up about that. So it just seems so weird. I was driving today. I don't know what was making me think about it, but I was driving today and I was thinking about Jason, and I was just like, it just is weird, you know? Like, Alex went and, you know, he hung out with, like, all of their friend group and stuff, but, like, other than Alex, I haven't talked to anybody about it. I mean, I talked to Melissa, but she didn't really know him. She only met him one time. And, I just am like, it's so weird. Like, it doesn't feel weird. It doesn't feel real to me yet, because I really haven't, like, had any closure with it, I guess. I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, the last memory I have of him is literally we were dancing on the racetrack at Rev, and I was laughing because he had on, like, this suit and this bow tie, and then he had on, like, a ski hat because he was bald, and so he always wore, like, ski hats, like, with suits and stuff like that. And I was laughing, and we were dancing on the racetrack. That's the last memory that I have of him. And then we left and we said goodbye, and he gave me a hug, and a week later he's dead. It feels so weird, you guys. Like, I don't know. It just is, it's just weird. It's just so weird. I think that often in grief, like, when we grieve, I think we don't always just grieve for that person too. I think we grieve for a lot of the loss that we've had, you know, and I never really know how I'm gonna feel until that moment. I don't love funeral homes, but I go now because I think you learn in life to suit up and show up, and I'm not afraid of them though either. I think there was a period where I was. It really wasn't after my mom, it was really before my mom that I felt that way. That I just was really weirded out by funeral homes and I didn't like them. I had a really bad, so with my grandma, when my grandma passed away when I was like 12 or 13, we were at my aunt's house. Like, we stayed over there like that whole week. My mom and I did. Like, you were talking about, like, that was a mess as far as her drinking. Like, she was pretty intoxicated that whole time. And I remember, it's weird the memories you have, you know, about, like, I remember two of my aunt's friends. I remember them, like, they're very wealthy and very stylish. And I remember, and they were really good friends with my aunts, more than my mom's. My cousin is not real big fans of theirs today. It's interesting. She like today, like, she always kind of thought they were fake, and I never saw that growing up. I always just thought they were like these Annie Mame types. And I remember them standing out, like walking to their car, and like this one had like this fur like throw on, and they were like smoking cigarettes and laughing. And I don't know why, like I have that memory. I was like standing like right outside the door, like waiting, because I didn't want to be inside. And I remember it was like raining the day that my grandma, her funeral and her viewing. And I remember like watching them like laughing, walking to the car. And I thought that I just remember, even at that age, thinking that was insensitive. I don't know why I have that memory. But so we were at my aunt's house, and my cousin at the time was 16 or 17. She's 3 years older. My grandma died in January. So, well, Caroline at that time was driving, so I must have been 13. And she was 16. Or maybe she was 15 and I was 12. I mean, it could have been. I don't know. Maybe she wasn't driving at that time. Maybe it was her boyfriend that drove us to the funeral home. I have no idea. I don't remember. But anyway, I should ask her. She would probably remember, although she very rarely remembers anything from her childhood. She doesn't just, her memory is, she'll be like, I don't remember. I don't know how you remember this stuff. So, we were there, and my aunt and my mom asked Caroline and I if we wanted to go. And they were gonna, like, for the family, have like the casket open, and then they were gonna close the casket. And I remember my mom and my aunt like sitting me down and being like, now, do you understand what we're asking you? Like, your grandma will be in the casket. And they were like very, you know, compassionate about it, very sweet about the whole thing. And I just had this like love relationship. I loved my grandma so much. I just adored her, you know. And I didn't want to remember her like that. I just didn't. And somebody said that, like, do you think that maybe Peter's too young, or we shouldn't have Peter remember him like that? I can't remember who said that, but maybe my uncle, I don't know. So I was like, no, I'm going to stay here, and I'll go with Caroline and her boyfriend at the time, because Caroline had this boyfriend that she was pretty serious with, like, for 2 years. He was, like, a big part of our lives. And I remember he was the one that actually, maybe I was 13, I don't know, but he taught me how to tie a tie. I can tie a fierce tie to this day. I mean, to this day, I can tie like a perfect tie. And my cousin's boyfriend for my grandma's funeral was the one that taught me how to tie a tie. Isn't that strange? But anyway, so I said no, I would stay back with them, and then I would go to the funeral home with them. So we left like an hour later. Well, we get to the funeral home and we go in. First of all, to this day, funeral homes have a very distinct smell to me of a mix of fresh flowers and fake flower arrangements. It's a distinct mix of the two, and I can't stand the smell. I really, really hate the smell. And for a long time, I just didn't like flowers at all. I think it's really why, like, I don't love, like, I'll stop and smell roses now. You know, at 46, almost 47 years old, it doesn't bother me. But for a long time, I couldn't smell roses. I thought roses were funeral flowers. I hated the smell of them, whatever. I don't feel that way today, but, like, there's a strong smell of roses and carnations in funeral homes. I don't love it. My favorite flower is Stargazer Lily. I just like really fresh, springy flowers. I don't like flowers that smell like that. You know what I mean? Anyway. Also, afterwards, my mom brought home, I don't know why, but all of these, like, I think for the vases, she brought it home, all these flower arrangements that had, like, but anyway, it, like, she put it in this one closet, and, like, in our, like, it was right there by, like, our kitchen and our library, in this pantry. It smelled like flower arrangements. And I mean, she didn't put live flower arrangements in there, but it had, like, the stuff that you stick the flowers into, those things, you know. And I just remember it reminding me, that smell I associated with death. And so to this day, I still associate this flower arrangement smell. Even if it's like I'm at a wedding, I sometimes, like, it catches me off guard, and I smell, and I don't like it. It makes me really uncomfortable. And it's all because of that, what happened with my grandma. I went to my grandma's viewing, and it was at the same funeral home that my mother's funeral was at, which was I was gonna say the same as my aunt's, but my aunt's was actually in a church. So we had my mom's viewing at the same funeral home that my grandma was at, which was the Roder, Flanner, and Buchanan. And because that was where my mom grew up, and my aunt, you know, my grandma lived and stuff like that. So anyway, I remember walking in there, and I got to the door, and like they didn't know we were there yet. And so like Caroline and her boyfriend and I walked in, and we're just like, la 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 la. And I'm thinking we're just gonna walk in the room, and like the casket's gonna be closed and everything. And I walk in the room, and I look, and my grandma's sitting in the casket, and I could see her up there sitting in the casket, and I like literally lost it. Like I just started sobbing like uncontrolled. I just could not contain myself. And my dad, I think, was on his way there or something like that. I know that I sat in my dad's car. I think that's when I would have seen the friends, because my dad was friends with them too, and I think he stopped and talked to them for a second. But I sat in my dad's car, I remember, for a really long time. Like, I refused to go back in. I wasn't going to go back in. And nobody forced me to. I mean, they were really nice about the whole thing, but I sat out in my dad's car for, I mean, I just literally lost it. I was like almost on the floor convulsing. Like, it was my first, so my dad's dad died when I was 5, and I'll tell that story in a second, but like, it was really my first encounter with like, as an understanding like person, like death and grieving and things like that. And so I don't know, at some point though, I decided I wanted to go in and see my grandma, and so I did. And I remember I walked very carefully up there, and she literally looked like she was sleeping to me. I just remember she looked like she was sleeping. My grandma never wore a dress, and I remember she was in this dress. And she didn't look like she was dead. She didn't look like a body to me. I mean, she didn't look like a corpse. She just looked like she was sleeping, and I think that really, really helped. And my grandma always had like beautiful nails. Like, she went to the beauty shop every week and got a roller. My grandma every week went to the beauty shop. She'd call it the beauty shop. She'd come, go in the beauty shop, get her nails, roller set, and her nails done. And she always wore bright red nails. And I remember her hands across her chest, and she had like these beautiful nails. Like, they just looked beautiful. And I remember my aunt like took one of her hands and kind of held it. And my mom was like, for some reason, I don't know how I remember this, but I remember my mom being intoxicated that whole week except for the funeral. Like, she just wasn't for the funeral, and I think maybe she just pulled it together for that and was like, I can get through this. My grandma hated my mom and my aunt drinking. She hated it. And I remember my mom being like, if you want to touch grandma, you can touch her, it's okay, you know, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And I remember I laid my hand like on top of my grandma's, and I remember my mom put her hand on top of mine. And my mom said, doesn't grandma's nails look so pretty? And it just, something changed. It didn't seem scary to me anymore. It seemed comforting to me. I wasn't scared anymore. I could be in that room. But I do remember like being in that room when like people were talking, and I would kind of like look over at my grandma, and in my head I was like talking to my grandma. I just remember standing there and being like in my head talking to her, you know, like, I mean, not really, but like, and I remember afterwards we had like, you know, the big thing back in my aunt's house, whatever. It was the same as my mom's, you know. It was just like, it was the same as my cousins, or not my cousins. It was the same as my aunts. It was the same as it's just, you do the same thing every time, you know, until they're all gone, I guess. And my aunt wanted a huge party. She went to like a catered, bartended party, and Caroline got it for her. She like had it at my aunt and uncle's condo. My uncle at one point just was like, I'm not doing this. Like, he hated parties anyway, so he went downstairs in the basement. I think they took him actually to Caroline's house. I think Caroline's son took him to Caroline's house, but she had like an open bar, bartender, catered. It was really nice at my aunt's house. My dad came, I remember, and it's so weird for me to see my dad at things like that. You know, like him at my uncle's thing. He spoke at my uncle's thing, and you know, my dad and like, I've been in that circle of people for so long, so it's so weird because a lot of them know each other, like, all those people in there, but, you know, like, of all of those that have been friends since, like, college on, like, my dad and Susie are it, you know, like, it's so weird to me. It's just so weird to me. This is where I say, like, grief, I think, pulls out. I've been really emotional all day today. I don't know if it's me knowing that I have to go tomorrow or whatever, and, it's just weird, you know. My dad's dad passed away when I was 5, and that happened when I was in Fort Wayne visiting my aunt for the summer. I was there for like 2 weeks. My dad and my mom and my dad's partner used to get tickets to the tennis championships here in Indianapolis. So I would always go and stay with my aunt and uncle for that week. And it just happened that my grandfather passed, so I was there. He had a massive heart attack while he was driving a car. He was with his friend. They had gone, my grandfather was a homicide detective. 2 things. My grandfather was in the military, World War II, in Germany, on the ground. So my grandmother got pregnant, my grandfather was deployed, and then my grandfather came home when my dad was 4. So my dad didn't actually meet his dad until he was 4, because he was born while my grandfather was in World War II. My grandfather was a homicide detective in Fort Wayne, solved one of the very first murder cases up there, and was apparently on the cover of True Crime magazine or something like that, which is kind of interesting. And my dad told me that. My aunt has a copy of it. She found or something recently. And then he was also a pool shark. I mean, to the point where I guess my grandma hated it. They were very, very poor growing up. My dad was the youngest of 5. And my dad still to this day talks about it. And he doesn't, my dad says the word poor kind of funny because he's from northern Indiana, so he has kind of an accent. He'll say poor. He'll say we were very, very poor. Very, very poor. Because I'm like, you have no idea. And he was like, but we didn't know it. A lot of my simplicity and my enjoyment of the simplicity in life comes from, like, my dad and my mom's, like, having grown up with nothing. Because I think they had, from a very early age, they had to learn to, like, really like simple things. But the funny thing about that is that both of them really, really liked nice things, too. The older they got, I think that their lifestyle afforded them the ability to have nice things, you know? My dad really likes nice cars and to take nice trips. And I think that you can like simple things and appreciate simple things in life with also liking nice things as well, you know? But where am I out on time? So I was up there and my grandfather passed away, and if you haven't watched my vlog for a long time, you might not know this, but I choose to use the word passed on or passed away instead of just died. Sometimes I say died, but I really prefer the word passed on or passed away because I feel like it is a passing. Spiritually, I believe that we pass on to some kind of afterlife. I believe in an afterlife, and I prefer that word. I mean, died or dead doesn't offend me, but I think it's more honorable to say passed on or passed away, and I just choose to use that word. But so I was up there when it happened. He was with a friend. He would get up for breakfast every morning at like 4:30 in the morning, and he and one of his old, like, detective friends, they would go to breakfast, and they were coming home from breakfast, and apparently my grandfather just had a massive heart attack and just veered over and died. And he was 74 and not in great shape, but 74 is a good life, right? And so, yeah. And I remember he had this ginormous funeral. And, I mean, it was like, you know, the folding of the flag because he was in the military and everything with the gun salute. And he was also a police officer, so all the police officers came in there. He was very respected in his community. It was a huge funeral. I mean, excuse me, when he died, 5 kids and something like 25, 30 grandkids. I mean, it was massive funeral. And I remember at this one point, my dad took me into the bathroom, and I was in like a little suit and tie and stuff, and we went into the bathroom, and he was standing in front of the mirror. My dad started to cry, and I remember he allowed himself to cry for a couple minutes, and then he said something to me to the effect of, which is so funny in looking back on this, because my dad's somebody that's like not afraid to show emotion, but he said, "We're just gonna keep that between you and I," or something like that. I don't know, but. And then I didn't know this, but he went home. My dad does say this though. He tells this story. My dad's kind of my dad is a spiritual person, but he said that morning, my dad, it just stopped. I was about to say it's going to stop, and then it stopped. My dad was running a lot at that point, like had started marathon running and stuff, and he went for a run that morning, and he said that right before he left to go on a run, my other aunt called him, and he like saw the, like, she said something like, "Call me," and it was like on the answering machine, and so he was going to call her back, and then he went for a run, and he just knew, like, when he was running, and he said he cried the whole time. My dad told me this later, that he cried the whole time running, that he said goodbye to his dad. He just had this gut instinct that his dad was gone. He didn't know why, he just felt like he was like running with his dad, which I think is kind of a cool memory. And then, so yeah, there's something else I was going to tell. And then after that, I think that was my dad's 40th birthday that year. So I would have been, was I 5? I don't remember the ages or the years or whatever, but it was one of my dad's big birthdays. And my dad and my mom and 2 other couples, they rented like a house in Lake Monroe down by Bloomington, which is where they all went to college. I think it was my dad and my mom, my aunt, my uncle, and one other couple. And they had like a big party for my dad's birthday. And my mom actually had these beer steins made up, because my dad had gotten this sailboat called the Forever Young, and she got these beer steins. We still have them at home. And they say, like, they have a sailboat on them, and she had them engraved, like, into the glass, the sailboat, and then it says Forever Young in the glass. And she said that they had this great weekend and everything, and this was right after my grandfather had passed away. I must have stayed in Fort Wayne, because this was, like, literally, like, a week or 2 after that. And that, I remember my mom talking about this. She would tell me this as I was older, that she came home, and then they literally turned around and they went on this birthday trip, because they already had it planned. And on the way home from Bloomington, my dad said to my mom, "I'm leaving in January." And he said, "I'm not happy, and you're not happy, and I don't think..." He said, the way he explained it to me later was that he said, "We both deserve to be happy, but we're going to stay in this relationship and make each other miserable for the rest of our lives unless one of us leaves. And I know you won't leave, so I'm going to leave. And hopefully we can both be happy." And I don't, to this day, know why. I've asked my dad. He's like, "I don't know, Peter." He goes, "I think I was giving your mom time and preparation." He goes, "Maybe in retrospect it was the wrong thing to do." But that was August, and he didn't leave till January. My mother went from a size 10 to a size 0. A true story. Size 10 to a size 0 or 2 or something like that, from August to January. And she would say later, like, "I was doing it because I think I was trying to save my marriage." And I think that that's what, you know, I thought he wanted. So, and then my dad, I don't know how I've gotten into all this. My dad got an apartment, and I didn't see him for like the first 2 weeks. And I used to always have like, so my dad, I would go to my dad's office with him and stuff, and he would let me take like medical supplies. And so I would always have like Ace bandages, which I had a blanket at one point that was called my Edgy. It was an Ace bandage. But I would always have like, that, I would always have that in my bedroom, with like tongue depressors, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I remember, this was before cell phones and stuff, you know. my mom was like upstairs, and I like got into my mom's purse and I looked in like her address book where she had like my dad's new phone number. I found it somehow and I wrote it down on a tongue depressor, and I hid the tongue depressor like in my underwear drawer, like underneath all my underwear, because I just wanted to be able to get a hold of my dad, I think. You know, like when you're young and you're going through that, like you don't really know what that means, like if you're going to ever see your parents again or whatever, you know? And my dad had been like calling me every day. It wasn't like I hadn't talked to my dad, but he had been gone like for a week or something and I hadn't seen him. I can't remember the conditions of it. But I knew that I had talked to him. I must have talked to my dad. My dad was always like, I talked to him all the time when I was growing up. Like literally every morning from the time that he left until I graduated from high school, my dad called me every morning to make sure that I got up for school and was on my way. Every morning, you guys. Like, legit. Even on vacations, every morning. He would call and be like, just want to make sure you're up for school, buddy. And I was like, okay, Dad, thanks, love you. Every morning. So I wrote his number down and I put it on, I need to get gas. And I put it on, this tongue depressor, and then I hid it underneath my underwear drawer. Well, my mother must have found it, because I can remember I came home from school and she sat me down and she like had it in her hand, and I was so scared and embarrassed. And she was like, honey, she was like, you can call your dad whenever you want. She was like, you know, like, just because he's not here anymore. And I remember she said to me, your dad did not leave us, your dad left me. And she said, you didn't have anything to do with why your dad and I are not together anymore. We just decided that mommy and daddy aren't happy together. She said, but you're going to have a home with your daddy and you're going to have a home here. My parents were so fantastic in how they handled and verbalized the divorce with me. I mean, just incredibly fantastic. Now, I think I saw some yahoo of counselors through the, I mean, I saw so many different counselors. This one guy, he's probably dead, but he was an idiot. I'd say his name, but he doesn't deserve it anyway. He was like a renowned child psychiatrist or something. Like, he was horrible. He was so horrible. And I remember I saw him forever and I hated him. My parents were like, felt so guilty about going through a divorce and how it affected me that they constantly had me in seeing counselors. Stupid. I think in some ways I was more adjusted because it happened so early to me. Maybe not, I don't know. I just don't remember, like, once I got past the initial, all of that, like okay, it's my dad's Wednesday, or it's my dad's weekend, or I'm going home to my mom's, like, the only thing that really bothered me about that was that, like, I would get to my dad's house and I would forget something that I wanted or needed for the weekend. You know, like, that was something that bothered me. Like, not having everything at both places. You know, friends of mine all the time, they're like, that are going through divorce, they're like, what do you think is best for a kid? Seriously, having been through it, what do you think is best? And I know people do not agree with me on this one, and they don't like this, because if you look at it selfishly, it affects you. But if you live close to each other, what I really think is best is for a child to, like, do a week with one parent and then a week with another parent, or 2 weeks with one parent. I think that would be ideal. 2 weeks with one parent, 2 weeks with another parent, and don't fight over the kids for holidays. Let the kids decide where they want to be, and don't split siblings up and all that kind of stuff. It just becomes so messy. Put your selfishness aside for a second and look at what's in the best interest of your child. You know, they don't deserve to suffer have to have 6 Christmases because you guys can't get along. Like, that is not fair to a child, and I'm so thankful my parents didn't put me through that. You know, but in retrospect, like this Wednesday, being at my dad's house, coming home Thursday morning to go to being up and ready to time for school. I mean, I don't know how I did it. You know, on weekends, coming home on Sundays, it would take me 3 hours to get adjusted. I wouldn't want to do any homework, then I'd have to do homework, and then I had to get up the next morning, sleeping in a different bed. No. That stuff is crazy. We should not be doing that to kids, okay? The reality is it takes a day to 2, 3 days to adjust to someplace. And by the time that you're adjusted, you're changing out of there anyway because it's the weekend. So I think that parents, what they should do is the mother or father should have them for a week or 2 and then switch it on a Sunday. and then switch it again, and then switch it again, if you're sharing custody. If you're not, this Wednesday night, dad night stuff, like, really messes kids up. Like, I looked forward to it because it was kind of like, for me, like, in my normal, boring schedule, it was like, oh, I gotta go with dad tonight, and I gotta go out to dinner, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But the reality was, at the same time, like, it really screwed up my schedule and really messed with me because it just was like I wasn't used to it. And so, you know, my dad would pick me up from school, and then we would, like, go out to eat somewhere, or he would, like, pick up steaks and we grill them out at his house. I mean, it was fun, but it was a fun night for me. It wasn't like normalcy. And I really think that what kids need growing up is normalcy. I really do, you know? Do I think I would have liked it as much if my parents had, like, had me stay? Well, first of all, I think I would have missed my mom if I had been gone for 2 weeks. But a week, I think I could have handled. You know, or even a week and a half, you know, split it up, a Sunday to a Wednesday, and then like a Wednesday through a Sunday or something. You know, I think that would be good. Don't make the kids suffer as a result of it, because I can remember, because then if I had gotten to my dad's and I had forgotten some stuff, like, the next day I could have gone over there and gotten it or something, you know, because I would be coming back again for another week and a half. But, like, I don't know, like, and I never really felt like I had my place. Like, even though I had a room at both houses, like, it didn't ever feel that way to me. My dad's house always felt like my vacation room. It didn't feel like my permanent room to me until I was older. Like, in high school, it definitely did. But then I spent so much time at my dad's house in the summers and stuff that I think that's why it felt more permanent to me, because I was out there more often. That was because I could drive. When I could drive, it changed everything, because I could stay where I wanted to stay. I don't know, I just think that, like, I have so many friends of mine, maybe not now so much, but, like, years ago, you know, like, they'd be going through custody, and they would say, like, well, you know, like, in the argument they would have would be, like, how much time the children spent at what place. But then it would always circle back to, well, he thinks he deserves this, or he thinks, it was never about the kids, it was about the animosity towards the ex-husband. And I can remember looking at my friends and being like, I really just don't think that you want to take this out on your kids. Like, they're the ones that end up suffering in the long run. Well, no, not really. I'm like, yeah, really, they are, you know? I feel so blessed that my parents didn't do that to me. My parents did a lot of screwed up stuff. I grew up in the house of an alcoholic. My parents, like, didn't, you know, there were a lot of things they didn't do right as far as parenting. They weren't super involved in my academics, okay? But they were very involved in my school life. They knew what was going on at school. I don't know how my academics slid by. I just don't, in retrospect. But, you know, one of the things that they got right was parenting on the same page. They just did. Like, I couldn't slide stuff by on my parents. If I got in trouble with one, I was in trouble with both, period. And they were both sitting there. And I can remember, you know, like, my mom, like, sobbing and being like, I can't believe, you know, I just can't even think of certain incidents now, but, you know, things that would happen. And my dad he wouldn't shush her up. He wouldn't tell her to shut up. He would let her have her feelings and her emotions. And he would look at her and he'd say, you've disrespected your mother. Do you see how upset she is? Like, this is them apart, you guys, you know? And I would just sit there and be like, I can't, you know? Or my dad would be really angry, and he'd say, I had to come, you know, cancel a board meeting because of dealing with the situation. And my mom would say, your father works very, very hard, and you're disrespectful. And she'd be sitting right there, okay? And they've been divorced, you know, for a couple years, and my mom would say, your father works very, very hard, that you're so disrespectful that now, you know, he had to cancel a board meeting and be here, or cancel surgery and be here to deal with you, you know? They co-parented like nobody's business. I have no idea. I'm looking for my lip balm, but it's in my bag, which is behind my camera. I don't know where that came from. I really don't. But I'll tell you right now, I hated it at the time. I hated it. I knew I couldn't get away with anything. But it was one of the greatest things that ever, you know, I think happened. And I honestly think that if they had stayed married, it wouldn't have been that way. I think my mother would have demurred to my father a little bit. And I think he would have been a disciplinarian, and I think he would have let me get away with a lot of things, because I think he would have been so unhappy staying in the marriage that he just would have been like, do whatever you want, I don't care. I really do, you know, and I think that you know, I think my stepmom being involved really helped a lot of things. She and my mom were like the co-disciplinarians for a long time. And I didn't like that at all. But, because my dad would just be like too busy. And so like my mom and not necessarily co-disciplinarians, but like as far as my like figuring out, if I was like grounded or something, I mean, my parents didn't really believe much in groundings, and I don't either. But if I was grounding, like my mom and my stepmom made sure that if I was grounded at one house, I was grounded at the other. And they would remember it, you know? And, but the things that happened that I didn't know either were like, if I had a bad weekend at my dad's house, my stepmom would call my mom and be like, Peter had a really rough weekend, you know, like, I think maybe something's going on at school or something. And so my mom and my stepmom talked a lot. I didn't know that occurred until later. So, you know, but my mom wasn't like at that point anymore. She was not threatened by my stepmom. And I think she could see her for being really genuinely caring about me. You know, like, my stepmom really genuinely cared about me. And I remember my dad, like, he told me later, like, when I was in my 20s, he said, I told your stepmom when we got married, he goes, so, just so you know, because I was 12 when they got married, he said, he looked at her and said, before he proposed, he said, I'm about to propose to you, but just so you know, when you say you're marrying me, you're marrying my kid, too. And she said, I'm in it for everything. And she has been, you know. I think that's something step-parents miss a lot. You're not just marrying the parent, you're marrying the kids, you're marrying the ex, you're marrying all of them, you know? My stepmom, I think, one time said something disrespectful about my mom. One time in all of that time. One time, you know? Knowing my mom's mouth, I'm sure at one point or another she went off on my stepmom on the phone. I'm sure it wasn't completely classy. I'm sure my mom, you know, probably had a couple drinks and had some things to say to my stepmom at some point or another, so. But if that's the case, my stepmom's kept that to herself, and she's never tarnished that image of my mom for me. So that in itself, I think, is classy, you know? Anyway. What time am I at, boys and girls? Let me do the math in my head. 40 minutes. I'm at like 45 minutes. I think I'm going to end it here tonight. I thought I'd be able to vlog tomorrow on our road trip. Well, not our road trip, but our going to Jason's viewing. If we come home, she may stay there longer, his girlfriend. So if she stays there longer, then we can vlog on the way home. But if she doesn't, and she comes back with us, I'm not going to have her be on the vlog. That's not fair to her. So I will vlog tomorrow night. But I'm going to get off here now and listen to my audiobook. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic, what will it be, Wednesday? I hope you're having an amazing Wednesday, unless you have other plans, but don't. Just enjoy the day. Make the most of it. Take some fun risk in your life. Try a new book. I went to Half Price Books and I bought that poetry book that everybody's talking about, Milk and Honey. It looks interesting. I can't wait to start it. I'm going to start it in June because Goodreads is having a summer reading challenge, and I'm going to do that. So anyway, that's going to be part of my reading challenge. And I'm going to do my TBR for that sometime this week. So anyway, but have an amazing Wednesday unless you have other plans. And if nobody else told you this today, I love you. And I want everybody out there to hear that at least every day. And if you don't hear it anywhere else than on my vlog, then I know that's silly, but to me it's not. I love you. And pass it on to somebody else. Tell it to yourself so that you really believe it. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Love ya.